This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
You're plugged in for the Podcast Wrestling Society. Give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at PODWRES Society.
Faith is the place, and the sky's the limit.
Now, your host, he is the
one and only
Troy Adams.
Oh, say, can you see? It's another Wrestling Wednesday here on the Podcast Wrestling Society. I'm your loving leader, benevolent host, Midwest Monster, and Goldie. Daddy's going to war. I'm Troy Adams. And my red, white, and bruised partner in crime, when you ask him if he's free, he says, hell yeah, I'm free. Woo! America! Raise hell, praise Dale. He is the Tennessee stud to my Tennessee Lee. He is most definitely Greg. What up, Greg?
What up? I'm most definitely white, apparently, too.
Hell yeah. Well, when I make Mexican jokes at you, you're like, well, I'm not Mexican.
Well, not full.
Well, yeah, you're only half. Yeah. Speaking of that, well, I don't know how it's speaking of. I'm missing a transition here. There's no way to go from that to. It was Veterans Day on Monday.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's a big day in America, where we honor anyone who is currently serving or has served in the military. By the way, from people who have served in the military, who have made this PSA, for all of you out there, I learned this years ago. They said, look, thank you for thanking me for my service, but Memorial Day is for people who have died. I am still alive. Thank me on Veterans Day.
I don't know how people can't decipher that.
Yeah, I know. There are so many thank you for your service, messages on Facebook on Memorial Day. I don't know. I've seen that a few times. It's like, dude, wrong day. I'm in November. But today, because of that, I know we have a lot of listeners that don't live in America or know the American customs, but that's what we do on Veterans Day is honor those who have served in our military. And because of that, I really wanted to cover these shows, and I needed an excuse to cover them. So, yeah. Plus, one of these shows has a War Games match on it, so it's like dual meaning. Because War Games is coming up, Greg. I don't know if you knew that.
I'm a little excited. I may watch it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about tuning in, but it depends on what I have to do that night. I'm going to be in Chicago, so I don't know. For those
That
of you
was cheap, but I liked it.
For those of you who haven't picked up on it or haven't listened to the previous episodes, we're going to War Games. We're going to Survivor Series, so we'll actually be in Chicago. I'd like to be able to go I'd like to be able to go twice in 1 month because I wish I could have been there for Full Gear. As with the recording of this, it is past tense. Full Gear happened, but that would have been fun. And I could have had 2 Chicago trips in 1 month.
Since it's past tense, I went to a New Japan show this past weekend.
And I'm sure it was great. New Japan is in Cali, and everything else is in Chicago. Well, either way, speaking of AEW, though, and New Japan, I was sending you stuff earlier, and I just wanted to get, before we hop into this here, because we got some stuff to cover, but what do you think of the rumors and innuendo about New Japan handling the former Elite members?
If it's true, I think it's pathetic.
Yeah, they said Kenny Omega has never had, for those of you not kept up on it, Kenny Omega has never had issues getting into or leaving Japan before, but now that he no longer works for New Japan, suddenly he's been held up at the airport multiple times. So,
yeah. I want to know how a wrestling company has that authority. That's why I'm kind of questioning it.
Yeah, that's why I don't know the politics and inner workings of Japan, so I really don't know. But I sensed that something was up on. You watched the Halloween episode of Dynamite, right?
I have not watched a single episode of Dynamite yet.
None? Dang.
No, I haven't had time. There's just too much wrestling.
I always find time for Dynamite, Greg. It comes in small packages. Giggity.
And you are a small package. Giggity.
Wow. Either way, the
it's as tall as Hornswoggle, folks. True story.
Yeah, he was up to my dick. That was it. Either way, yeah, on Dynamite, for those of you who didn't watch it, on their Halloween episode, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, when they came out in costume, they had a custom entrance video where
I kind of like this, actually.
It was an 8-bit video game. I don't know if it was the one that Kenny Omega was dressed up as or not. Undertale or whatever the hell. Mm-hmm. But the big boss, evil boss, whatever, was the New Japan logo. And he was like, join us or be crushed or something like that. And they threw a sock at his face and whatever and told him to shut up. I thought, well, something must be brewing if they're talking crap on New Japan. Not so subtly. And then I see all this. And then Kenny Omega tweets, it's worse than the rumors will lead you to believe. I don't know how.
That's rough.
Yeah. I don't know how it could be worse, but I mean, then again, I don't know the Japan workings and politics and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just
baffled. I'm baffled he's held up at the airport because of wrestling.
Yeah.
That's what I'm stuck on.
I know. I'm like, I can't figure it out. I can't wrap my mind around it. But hey, I mean, Pride was fixed for years and nobody knew it. So I don't know. I don't know I assume nobody knew it for years. I don't know. But there's that. Nothing really else to report on today. I really wanted to jump into our subjects at hand, which are Clash of the Champions 7, Guts and Glory, and Great American Bash 89. They kind of go hand in hand with the themes and with just like order of things happening in the NWA at the time. Have you seen these shows before we decided to review them?
Yeah,
okay.
But I watched back the Great American Bash just because I wanted to.
Oh yeah, it's a really good show. For those of you who haven't watched, I mean, we are in the Jim Herd era at this point, which is famously dumb. But there are some really good gems in there, and you'll see on these cards.
Was this Herd? I don't think this was Herd yet.
Yeah, because he was in. They showed his name in the credits, and they talked about WCW president or whatever the hell he was, Jim Herd. They mentioned him on commentary a few times.
Well, I heard he makes good pizza.
God. Was he the manager of Pizza Hut, was it?
Yep.
Man.
Or regional manager or some crap like that. I don't know.
Assistant to the regional manager, Greg. But kudos to anybody who gets that joke, by the way. The Clash of the Champions 7 was called Guts and Glory. It took place June 14th, 1989 at Fort Bragg, North Carolina at the Ritz Epps Fitness Center. Sounds like a gym.
That's a mouthful, by the way.
Yeah. I will say they packed that place full. I don't see the attendance numbers, but it looked like there were a lot of like bleacher seats and stuff in there, and they packed it full. Since it was Fort Bragg, there was a lot of military there, so and they ran a very military friendly, family friendly show. We'll get into all that. I guess the show drew a 3.8 rating on TBS, which if any wrestling company in 2019 drew a 3.8 rating, they might poop themselves. Back then,
I'm sure they do. They're just not on TV, but that's a different argument.
Yeah, I'm just talking about like strictly TV numbers. But yeah, so this was the show that built up the Great American Bash 89, which is why we are covering it. The Bash, by the way, took place on July 23rd, so there was about a month gap between these two shows of Build. And the show opened with Lieutenant Colonel Carl Steiner thanking WCW for holding the event at Fort Bragg, talked about the history of the U.S. Army. Apparently, the significance of this date was it's the Army's 214th birthday, and it was Flag Day. So, had a lot of significance in there. Yeah. So, WCW really planned that properly. An Army choir performs the national anthem to open the event before a video shows WCW talent doing boot camp courses throughout the week. The corner posts, by the way, were wrapped to advertise Coors Light. Did you? Huh. I've never seen.
Old Boston.
Yeah, they took like foam things and kind of like just wrapped them around, like zip tied them, basically. It reminded me of when we covered the Halloween Havocs, where they made them look like giant Slim Jims. By the way, something weird I noticed all night. You know how when people come out and they put the Chiron up there with their name on it?
Yeah.
Well, they did that, except all night, every Chiron was blank. So it was just it was the WCW logo with a long bar next to it. Nothing on it. No names, nothing. So I'm like, why put up the Chiron if there's not a name? I would assume WCW didn't, or not WWE rather, wouldn't edit them out for any reason. I don't know what that reason could possibly be, unless they had Coors Light advertisements like on the Chiron with the name.
But it's on the post though.
Right. Yeah. So that wouldn't make sense. I don't know. It's weird. But the first match, by the way, is a good one. It's the Dynamic Dudes versus the Fabulous Freebirds with Terry Gordy.
Oh my God!
The Dudes.
I'm just thinking about John Laurinaitis.
Yeah, it was Johnny Ace, or John Laurinaitis, as you said, and Shane Douglas. Both had the sweetest bleach blonde mullets I've ever seen in my life.
Hell yes.
High and tight. Man. And they weren't even the redneck team in this match.
Think about that. They were the bro team.
They came out with skateboards and frisbees. It was something. They got a big pop from the crowd. That was weird. I'm like, what? The crowd actually, like, their music hit. They came out. The crowd went wild.
Okay.
I had never seen that before in my life. But the match ends as referee gets distracted by Johnny Ace. Shane Douglas rolls up Jimmy Garvin with an O'Connor roll, and Michael Hayes gets in, hits a DDT on Shane, and then Garvin pins him for the win. Shocker, the Dynamic Dudes didn't go over. A super goofy commercial is shown for the Wrestling Hotline, where Paulie Dangerously gets a call from the president. So this was before the WWE did the president gimmick. So I guess they ripped off that stupid idea. Or maybe weird minds think alike. It's in the archives,
by the way. Rip that off?
WWE, I guess. They had the president in the crowd at, what was it, Survivor Series 95?
95, yeah.
Yeah. Go back and listen to the archives. It is in there. It was something. They also had him at WrestleMania 10. Or, well, I don't know, a Bill Clinton impersonator, I'll say. The next match is Ranger Ross versus The Terrorist. I'll let that sink in for a minute.
Man, The Terrorist.
The Terrorist is covered in desert camo, and he's wearing a black mask with white Arab writing on it.
We're not making this up, by the way.
Yeah, go back. It looks like he's taken on a member of ISIS. And, by the way, the guy under the mask is white as hell, so he's also wearing gloves, so you don't see that he is super white. The crowd...
They're not that good at hiding stuff like that. You realize the last one we did, when talking about Sting, it was a black guy under Sting. I'm like, Sting's clearly a white guy, folks.
Yeah. That was something. But yeah, so...
Do we know who the terrorist was?
Yeah, he was. Gosh, you're gonna make me look it up now. I'm gonna put it in the Google machine here too. Jack Victory.
Oh my God, it was Jack Victory. Holy crap! Really?
Yes. I'm not positive who that is.
Well, I know him as Steve Carino's manager and running buddy in the last days of ECW.
Okay.
You might, if you've seen him before, he was like kind of looks like he put on like 100 pounds after this. He had like a Brian Knobbs style haircut, but no mullet, but he just had spiked blonde hair on top.
Okay.
I mean, it looked like Brian Knobbs. If you've seen them next to each other, you think they were brothers, but that was Jack Victory. Holy crap. So I didn't even know he was in wrestling before that. I just thought he was an ECW guy.
Yeah, no, he was the Russian Assassin #2 and the Blackmailer before this. The Blackmailer.
The Blackmailer, the Russian Assassin, who's a terrorist. You can't make this up. You can't.
And he was white as hell. Am I wrong?
Nope.
So there you go. But either way, the crowd obviously loses their crap over Ranger Ross. I mean,
I just got to mention one more time. This is Jim Herd, right?
Yes.
Oh, there you go.
Yep. But yeah, the crowd loses their crap for Ranger Ross because his whole gimmick is he's an Army Ranger. So there you go. Ross wins with a thrust kick to the face of a running terrorist for the pin.
Wow.
There's no better way to word that.
He wins with a running knee to the face of a terrorist.
The terrorist, Greg. And he ended terrorism right here in 1989.
No, he didn't, because Jim Herd went on.
Oh my gosh. He said it, not me.
A terrorist in wrestling booking. Come on.
Yeah.
Anybody who hears this is going to know exactly what I meant. If you don't, you're not a wrestling historian.
Yeah. Nobody has anything good to say about him. According to Jim Ross.
Well, except for the time that you left. I feel that was good.
Yeah. According to Jim Ross, his famous thing is he was like, it takes a lot of gin to run this engine. So he would drink a lot of gin.
What the hell does that mean?
He said he drank a lot of gin constantly. So they would go to the bar and he'd order himself like a third or fourth drink and he'd be like, it takes a lot of gin to keep this engine running. So him drinking a lot of
gin when he was booking.
Yeah, I was going to say him drinking a lot of gin explains a lot. Also, another funny story about him that I liked was another Jim, Cornette, said when he left WCW and something about like their ratings tanked on one show or something like that, and Cornette sent him to his office. He mailed a black wreath with a note attached that said, "My condolences on the death of your company." and he put to Jim, so Herd took it out of his office and put it in Ross's office. And Ross saw it and went, "What the F is this?" And he put it back in Herd's office.
Wow.
Yeah, good stuff. But a hype video is shown for the Road Warriors. Jim Ross then calls Great Muta and Gary Hart to the ring. Gary speaks for Muta and demands better American competition and not just basically random jobbers. He didn't say jobbers, but basically. Muta apparently misted Missy Hyatt in the face. Giggity. And Hart
leave that alone.
And Hart says that American women need to learn their place. And this is all kinds of 1989. Hot stuff. Eddie
all
Gilbert.
Kind of misogyny. Nice.
Yeah. Hot stuff. Eddie Gilbert then tries to throw a fireball in Muta's face. Muta moves, and he accidentally hits a jobber in the face with a fireball.
Wow.
So, yeah. More fireballs in WCW, man. At least he didn't burn his own eyebrows off with this one.
I was going to say, this one actually hits, though, right?
Yep. This next match was George South and Cougar J versus, speaking of Jim Herd, the Ding Dongs.
Oh, my God, yes.
They
Ding
were from...
and Dong.
How do you hate to be Dong?
Yeah, because, Ding is such a winner.
Well, yeah, Ding's a winner, but Dong is a real dick.
Oh, my God.
What?
Well, hold for editing.
No, I'm leaving that one in. The crowd boos the crap out of the Ding Dongs, by the way. Keep in mind, this is the same crowd that cheered for the Dynamic Dudes.
But the dudes are over, the dongs are not.
They are not. And they booed, by the way, throughout the entire match. Jim Ross...
Can we just, for people who don't know, can we set up their attires for everyone real quick?
They were wearing bodysuits, like pinkish orange bodysuits, and a full mask, and they had bells pasted all over or sewn onto their attire all over. And they brought a gigantic bell to the ring with them that they would put on the corner post and ring throughout the whole match. Dong, Texas, which is a real place, by the way. They went full bore with this gimmick. Jim Ross buried them on commentary, by the way. He couldn't even keep a straight face. But
who were they wrestling again?
They were wrestling George South and Cougar J, random job guys number 5 and 7.
That sounds just bad. Okay.
Yeah, but they're ringing this damn bell throughout the entire match, which is so annoying. They eventually win with a top rope elbow and knee drop combination. Yikes.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say this was the highlight of their career because I don't remember them ever winning anything.
Probably not. Yeah, I don't know what they did after this, but it was...
Hey, military, thanks for all you do. Here are the Ding Dongs.
Happy Flag Day, Ding Dong! Gosh, this was
Can we just,
awful.
real quick, we got to just talk about like the guys who are forced to wear this and do this crap. I mean, you got to feel for them.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they were just loving life at this point.
You know, I gotta look. Who is it?
I will say this, at least you can't see who the hell they are.
Well, I want to see now. Actually, I'm looking it up. Who the hell are they?
Yeah. Well, I'm saying for their sake, it was good.
Journeyman wrestlers Richard Sartain and Jim Evans. I don't know who the hell they are.
Those guys, yeah.
Well, there's the first picture I see is one as a jobber in WCW and one as a jobber in WWF. So there you go.
The job guys from WWE and WCW?
Isn't that a little bit of an oxymoron? We're talking about the Ding Dongs here.
Yep. Well, at least
we spent way too much time on the Ding Dongs.
It does actually get better from there. By the way, because we go from the Ding Dongs to the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette versus the Samoan SWAT team with Paulie Dangerously. So we actually get a good match. I believe that a drunk tried to go after the Midnight Express because Jim Cornette grabs the mic and he says, "We're going to save your life. We're going to go let you sleep it off." And then he starts his promo.
Wow. That sounds like him.
Yeah. But Paulie Dangerously then cuts a very Paul Heyman-like promo. I know he was Paul Heyman, but, or is, whatever. But I didn't realize that even as Paulie Dangerously, he said, "My name is Paul E. Dangerously." I was like, wow.
I forgot about that.
I didn't know he did that. I thought he just recently started it.
He sounded so different, too. I don't know if it's just me.
Yeah, his voice changed a lot throughout the years.
Like once he went to ECW, like he went through puberty or something.
Well, he had like a deeper, like generic voice in WCW, and then when he got to WCW or ECW rather, you could definitely tell Paul Heyman was speaking every time he talked. So I don't know, maybe it was all that time in Philly. But the bell goes. They have a really good match. The ref gets bumped towards the end, and the Road Warriors come in the ring and lay out the Samoan SWAT team, allowing Sweet Stan to get the win.
Is this a really rare moment where the Midnight Express was the face team?
Yes. Yeah, they were baby faces for a few months, and then they went back to being heels. The crowd loved them. I will say that. It was very hard for Jim Cornette to cut a babyface promo, though. A recap is shown of Terry Funk cheap-shotting Ric Flair and beating the absolute piss out of him and pile-driving him through a table. That's leading into
that was Chicago, right?
I believe so. Was it?
I think I think unless plans change, we'll be reviewing that match soon.
Yeah. I gotta look it up, but something like that.
It's the match after Flair and Steamboat 3, I believe.
Yeah,
beats the crap out of him. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. Because he goes straight from Steamboat into feuding with Flair, Funk. Next up, we get Dr. Death Steve Williams versus Terry Bambam Gordy. This was a freaking Haas match. These two just beat the crap out of each other for a long time in and out of the ring, and it was glorious. They were just two big old 300-pound men just clubbering on each other.
And fun fact, they're about a year or so away from being tag champs.
Oh, in WCW?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. However, they battle into the crowd and both get counted out for no contest finish. So, yeah. This next
Terry
match
Gordy,
will have
by the way,
special meaning.
father of the legendary Slam Master Jay. Gotta point that out.
Gosh, shut up.
I had to say it. Just fun facts.
I guess he's got a daughter, by the way, that's getting into wrestling. Jim Ross was talking about her. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, but she's been training. She looks
will she
like
be as good as Jesse?
Gosh,
you got them both in there. I'm done. Okay.
This next match will have special meaning to you for one reason in particular. It's Mike Justice versus Norman the Lunatic with Teddy Long. A couple things. The Mike Justice thing.
Sorry,
you and I know somebody who created a character on WWE named Mike Justice, and it was super, super terrible.
Oh my God. This is a real name.
And
I thought it was made up.
No, remember you and I pointed out to him years ago, we're like, there was a WCW jobber named Mike Justice.
If I did, I must have forgot.
I know I pointed it out to him. But Norman the Lunatic is Bastion Booger. So there's
we're going to get a trip to the Batcave?
No, unfortunately. He came out in
is this the one? Is this the one where he came out from a insane asylum or something like that?
Yeah. He had he had the outfit on, like he just got out of the insane asylum, and his hair was long and stringy and scraggly, and he was unshaven, and he comes out looking super crazy. He wins in short order with a corner splash, and then after the match, people in white coats come out and strap him to a stretcher and then wheel him out of the arena.
This is good TV.
Hell yeah. I will say he played the character well, and this was far more entertaining than anything.
He's probably not playing a character, but whatever.
Well, this was far more entertaining than anything he did as Bastion Booger.
I don't know. You said he didn't do a trip to the Batcave, so
that is true. He didn't teabag his opponent to death. Jim Ross interviews the Freebirds, who say that no tag team alive can take them on. Gordy then puts down Steve Williams, and then they show a promo for Flying Brian, who is jacked to the frickin' gills, and his diet must have been pure protein, dude. Do you remember what he looked like in '89?
I do, yeah.
Hot damn. He hadn't been out of football for too long. I think he was 0.5% body fat. But the next match,
you know where he played, by the way.
Played for the Bengals, whatever. But anyway,
I thought you liked the Bengals. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I thought you liked the Niners. So
that's not as bad.
Well, yeah, because they actually win. Was that a deep enough cut for you?
Kind of.
All right. Well, next
one of our listeners will appreciate that.
Yeah, he will.
Go to hell.
Hey, they beat the Browns, so I'm just as salty about it.
Everybody beat the Browns.
Eat me. Kevin Sullivan and Mike Rotunda of the the Varsity Club. I forgot their names for a second.
Hell yeah.
They took on the Steiner Brothers, who, for whatever reason, had Missy Hyatt in their corner.
And let me see. I'm trying to get this right. I think this is right after Rick Steiner left the Varsity Club. I think.
That would make sense because he's wearing a Michigan singlet. But Scott...
Oh, man. Two of your favorite teams in two back-to-back segments. That's great.
Heat me. But Scott is wearing gold trunks and gold boots, no pads, no tape, no singlet. Do you remember that attire?
I do, yeah.
That was a weird look for Scott Steiner. Watching this, you'd think that Rick Steiner was the star of the team, by the way. And he was for a minute.
Looked like he was groomed to be.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Scott passed him up, and everybody wanted him to be the breakout guy. I hate the way that Kevin Sullivan takes a clothesline, by the way. He runs in, he stops, he gets hit by the clothesline, and then he just like flops onto his back like a fish. He does this almost every time. I never understood
people praising his, quote, talent. I thought he sucked.
But I've never watched a Kevin Sullivan match and been like, man, that was good stuff. But Rotunda utilizes a lot of hair and tight pulling, while Rick and Kevin are brawling outside the ring, distracting Nick Patrick. Rotunda suplexes Scott onto a chair, tosses it aside, and gets the pinfall victory. Yes, he won with a vertical suplex onto a chair. Take that, 2019. Jim Ross interviews Jim Cornette, who says that Michael Hayes always talks about broads. Again, very 1989 of them. And the men in the army there at Fort Bragg know a lot more about broads than Michael Hayes could ever dream of. He then says that if a woman woke up next to Michael Hayes, she'd rather gnaw her arm off than risk awakening the beast.
Why?
I don't know.
Why is that the...
I guess it was like if like her arm was under him. I don't know. He then puts over the legendary Freebirds after the... Yeah. He then puts over how legendary the Freebirds and the Midnights both are. And that's the end of the promo. But this was classic Jim Cornette. North Carolina Governor Jim Martin thanks WCW and TBS. They have a lot of this crap throughout the show. Here's one, man. Sting versus Bill Irwin for the TV title.
Bill Irwin.
Wild Bill Irwin. Oh, yeah.
Do you know who that is?
He was the Goon, wasn't he?
That's the Goon.
Hell yeah. He looked like Uncle Earl here. Like, he wrestled in boots and
Remember,
jeans.
he was the Goon because he got kicked out of every league he ever played hockey in.
Sure. Yeah, that was masterful.
He was not Canadian. I mean, I know that's a stereotype, but he was not Canadian.
Yeah, judging by what he looked like here, he was most definitely not Canadian.
Southern America.
He probably owned a pickup truck, frequently blasted fog hat, drank a tall boy, and went up to the convenience store to get a tall boy and some lotto scratchers, a pack of smokes. Joe Dirt's one of his favorite movies.
And knew he can play the entire guitar solo of Freebird by himself.
Damn straight. Hell yeah. Or he's learning it.
I think we had every stereotype on the way down that tree.
One of his relatives, if not him, owns a banjo. That's guaranteed. But either way.
Right, let's leave the next one out of it, okay? I know where you're going next. Don't say it.
No, I'm not going any further. That's where I'm stopping. Sting comes to the ring with all his little stingers. This match is boring. Irwin is
It's Sting and the Goon.
Oh, well then. Irwin is celebrating in the corner for whatever reason, and then Sting surprises him with a Stinger Splash to the back. Then he rolls him up for the win. This was something I was excited to talk to you about because it's something that's been lost in the annals of wrestling history. And yes, I said annals, not annals.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, because of this. We get a look at Scott Gator Hall. You remember that?
I remember. I don't remember it personally, but I've seen the videos. Yes.
He has blonde hair and a blonde mustache.
And it's not just blonde hair. That's a blonde mullet.
Curly. Well, yeah, blonde curly mullet.
That is a mullet and a half.
He looks like if somebody stretched out Magnum TA. Am I wrong?
No.
He looked just like Magnum TA. We see him...
Yeah, I remember getting a little Lex Luger vibe out of him, too.
Maybe because he was big. But I don't know. I never watched him wrestle. but they showed like a quote highlight video of him wrestling around with various jobbers and poking at alligators in the swamp.
So this was post AWA, pre Diamond Stud.
Yeah. If we could forget this ever happened, that would be super cool.
Good Lord for Razor Ramon.
Right? Imagine that guy as, somebody in the bayou wrestling gators. Good grief. They should then show footage of Jim Ross interviewing Ric Flair in his very large home. Rick is wearing an LA Lakers tracksuit and neck brace, saying that Funk injured
Wow, he
his
lived
neck.
on the East. He should have been a freaking Celtics fan that era. What the hell?
Well, he lived in North Carolina, so I would assume he would have been a Hornets fan.
I'm
Because it
just
was the Hornets
saying
at
he was
the time.
going. He was going with the big dynasties of the '80s. So it was either the Lakers or the Celtics, and I feel like he's closer to the Celtics. But whatever.
Well, in the 1990s, 9 out of 10 people owned some form of Hornets merchandise. I don't know why, but it just wormed its way into everybody's home.
Larry Johnson was a big name.
Well,
It's funny though. I remember in the '90s when I went to school, it was Michael Jordan everywhere. So
right. Well, I'm just really shocked that he didn't own any Hornets merch. I realize this was '89, but still, the North Carolina thing. But either way, Rick is wearing a neck brace, and he say that he injured his neck when he was pile driven through a table through that table by Terry Funk. So he said he's coming back early. He says he's at 120%, or he feels at 120%, but he's not fully healed. So that's going to play into their match. Getting towards the end here, the Fabulous Freebirds with Terry Gordy took on the Midnight Express with Jim Cornette because it was a tag team tournament that they were all in. This was the finals. Paul E. attacks Cornette from behind with a tennis racket during their entrance and knocks him spark the F out. And the Midnights chase him off. They discovered that the racket was loaded with a horseshoe, which shouldn't have knocked him out, should have probably killed him. But, wrestling.
I just can't get over the horseshoe thing.
Yeah. Well, apparently that was something that Cornette actually did. When he thought that there might be a riot that night, he'd load up his bracket with a horseshoe.
Okay.
And one time, when Dennis Condrey was one of the Midnights, he grabbed the wrong racket to hit Ricky Morton with, and Jim looked at him. He was like, "Dennis, no!" And Dennis came right square down on his back with it and knocked the crap out of Ricky Morton. And he said Ricky looked over at him with a look that was like, "Why? I thought we were friends."
I think I saw that interview.
That was something. I can't imagine getting hit with a horseshoe. I'll say that. And horseshoes are big out here in Ohio. I don't know why I said that in a southern accent.
I don't either, but whatever.
Hey, whatever. America. The Dynamic Dudes come out to carry Jim Cornette off. Apparently they were buddies with the Midnights. The Freebirds had a ton of heat from that crowd, mostly gay slurs being shouted at them. 89, folks. The match is pretty good. The ref gets distracted with Stan Lane and Michael Hayes while Terry Gordy hits a powerbomb on Bobby Eaton. Jimmy Garvin pins him while holding the tights, leading to the victory for the Freebirds. And then we get our main event of the night. It's Terry Funk versus Ricky Steamboat. Steamboat kicks out of one pile driver. After the ref gets bumped, Funk pile drives Steamboat on the outside. Steamboat still can't get beat. While the Dragon makes a comeback, Funk rolls outside, grabs a microphone, and blasts Steamboat with it to get disqualified. So that was your main event, a screwed finish.
Okay.
Yep. And Funk is not done, but Lex Luger chases him off with a chair. The crowd then chants for Lex as he grabs a mic and says that some people have been saying that he has an ego problem lately, and he clotheslines Ricky Steamboat, smacks him with a chair, and locks him in the torture rack. Obvious turn was obvious.
Is this when he...
When he what?
No, this is post-Horseman, right?
I don't know the timeline of that. Might be. This was because I don't know. I don't know why they turned him right here, but this was very obvious from the moment he came out that he was going to hit Ricky Steamboat, or maybe that was just me. I don't know. Lex then grabs the mic again and he says, "There's your number one contender," and he leaves. Sting then comes down to check on Ricky, and the show comes to a close. I haven't seen a lot of Clash of Champions, but I thought that one was fairly good.
A lot of them were, actually.
I've got to go back and watch more Clash of Champions. Maybe we can review some in the future. I have some planned for the future that you and I need to review for sure, that big significant things happen. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll try to get through Great American Bash 89 because there's some good stuff on that show. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for a podcast that dissects and discusses the best team in the National Football League? My name is Brendan Shagru, host of the 46 Podcast, a podcast that covers the charter franchise in the NFL, the Chicago Bears. Join me after every game as I share my thoughts about the Bears, win or lose, and preview the next game with guest interviews, analysis, and my own personal joy or rage depending on what happens with the team. Listen on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more, or check us out on the Big Heads Media Network.
Hello, I'm Rich Ferraro. I host the Forest Ramble, the intelligent Nottingham Forest podcast. Every month I'm joined by Stephen Topless. Hello. And the Maradona in the Midlands. Hello. To review and discuss what's been happening at the City Ground.
We provide match reports, sharing our thoughts on what we have seen.
And our contributors Baz.
Hello.
And Jeremy.
Hello.
Chip in with analysis and nostalgia.
Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, search for Forest Ramble on social media, or visit www.forestramble.com.
Going Deep is a Raiders podcast that is determined to chronicle the Raiders' return to greatness, ideally under the watch of Coach John Gruden. He turned the franchise around once before and has a firm grasp of the Raiders' mystique created by the late owner of the team, Al Davis. That mystique is dormant due to years of losing, but Gruden's passion lies in bringing it back to life. Join your host, yours truly, Luke Straub. I write for the Raiders Wire of the USA Today Sports Media Group, and my Raiders bro in arms, Raider Larry Marbley, who is a huge part of the Raider Nation online community, as we chronicle the Raiders' return to greatness after every game and midweek as well, with special guest appearances. The Raiders will hoist the Super Bowl trophy once again, so keep it locked to Going Deep. You're not going to want to miss it.
All right, we are back. Go check out some other great podcasts on bigheadsmedia.com. I have been working to update our personal site on there, or our personal page, rather, on bigheadsmedia.com. There are a lot of other great podcasts you could check out on there besides this one right here. And recently I found out that my other wrestling podcast, Retro Wrestling Review, will be the newest addition to the Big Heads Media family. So if you love wrestling and like what Greg and I do here, go check that one out as well. Great American Bash 1989, Greg. You said you watched this one back recently.
I did.
It took place July 23rd, 1989 in the Baltimore Arena, Baltimore, Maryland. The attendance was 14,500. This was called Great American Bash: The Glory Days. And it wasn't bad. What did you think overall of the show?
No, I really loved it.
Yeah, I enjoyed sitting there and watching it, which I didn't know what to think, especially with the opening match. But yeah, it was different. 1989 was a fun year, I think, for both companies.
Yeah, WrestleMania 5 was great.
Yeah, well, WrestleMania 5, that was which one was
Hulk
that?
Hogan and Macho Man.
Oh, didn't we? Yeah, we reviewed that one. Was that fun?
The match was fun. I mean, that was.
Well, that part, yeah, but I'm talking about the rest of the card.
Well, when I think about WrestleMania back in the day, I only go to the main event usually.
Yeah, especially back in the day. Yeah, but if you do want to hear the review of some more 89, with WrestleMania 5, it's now in the archives. Go check it out. They start this one off with the Triple Crown King of the Hill Battle Royal. Talk about a mouthful.
That's a mouthful.
It's a 2-ring battle royal where everyone enters with a crown. Yeah.
This is a thing where they say the multiple rings. You notice that?
Yeah. I mean, I dig it, but
they did it for this, King of the Cable, obviously War Games, World War III.
Yeah, I know. This was something. The winner gets $50,000, by the way. The only way to win is to throw your opponent over the top rope into ring 2. Then those people have to fight until everyone is thrown over that top rope out of the second ring.
Yeah.
So you have to be eliminated twice. Then the survivors from both rings, by the way, have to wrestle, and the winner is, whoever throws the other guy out.
I'm already confused. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a lot. Dr. Death is wearing his Hulk Hogan wannabe gear. He's wearing plain yellow trunks, red knee pads, and yellow boots with white wrist tape.
He's the Okie Hogan, so...
I guess. I've never seen Dr. Death dressed like this before, but it was interesting. The last two participants are the Skyscrapers in both rings. Sid Vicious was in ring 1 and Dan Spivey in ring 2. Theodore Long...
By the way, how happy did Sid look to be holding that crown?
Oh, yeah. He just looked like, what the F am I doing? Coming down to the ring wearing chaps, by the way. Yeah. Chaps and a crown. Was this pre-Horseman?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Theodore Long gets on the mic and says, instead of fighting, they will split the money, and they leave. There's no winner. So, there's that. Gordon Solie interviews
That's
Theodore
a good way
Long.
to crapple over the whole thing. Huh?
Yeah, right. Oh, well, there's not really a winner. There's kind of two winners. I don't know. But anyway, here's your match.
I got to point out, too, that the crown Teddy Long was holding, it was clearly rubber. It was like flopping around the whole time he was talking.
I didn't even realize that. Wow. But yeah, Gordon Solie interviews Theodore Long backstage, who basically just calls out the entire locker room. He's back, Greg. It's Wild Bill Irwin versus Flying Brian.
Man. This was a match of hair right here, dude.
Hell yeah, the big curly mullets going on. Got the Southern boy and the Ohio boy. This match is boring, very boring. Brian gets his ass kicked.
I've never seen a bad goon match. What are you talking about?
I've never seen a goon match, so I guess I'm on the same page. I don't know.
You have the network. No excuse.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing with my network, looking up the goon.
You all should, by the way, if you're ever bored.
And Phantasma. Was that his name? The black dude with the face paint?
Yeah, I think he literally had one match, so.
Oh. Well, he was also in WCW as something. I don't know. But yeah, Brian basically gets his ass kicked throughout the whole match, except for one little bit of babyface fire he shows. Irwin body slams Brian from one ring into the other, and then he jaw jacks with the referee, getting into a shoving match. And when he turns around, Brian springboards, or actually he dives from the top rope of ring 2 into ring 1 onto Bill with a crossbody for the win. Bill Irwin, basically, if you haven't noticed by the last two matches, was clearly an idiot. Gordon Solie interviews Paulie Dangerously about his upcoming tuxedo match with Jim Cornette. Yay!
Oh, that's a barn burner, dude.
Hell yeah. Famous tuxedo match. Paul says he doesn't care about winning. He cares about taking Cornette out. He says that he knows Cornette...
Yeah, on a mandate. No, there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah,
we're going to rip off each other's tuxedos and stuff. Well, clearly something's going on.
Good Lord. That's... Wow.
Hey, to each his own. I don't judge.
I'm moving on. He says that... Cornette's knee is blown out. He says that Cornette's knee was blown out in that famous scaffolding match back in '86, and he's going to attack the knee.
Yeah, that is kind of a shoot too, right? Because I believe it really was.
Yep, he wore a knee brace to the ring. We'll talk about that in a bit. Here we go, man. They're back. The Dynamic Dudes versus the Skyscrapers. versus the Skyscrapers with Theodore Long. The dudes pull a chubby kid out of the crowd to play Frisbee with. Yes, really.
And by the way, that kid looks pissed.
Yeah. They pose for a photo with the kid, too. The kid looks bored and lost. He looks... If you want an idea of what this kid looks like, watch Bad Santa. He looks like the kid...
I'm leaving that alone.
He looks like the kid who asks if you like sandwiches. But Sid is only the legal man for about 90 seconds in this 10-minute match. He lets Dan Spivey do all the damn work. At one point,
Dan Spivey didn't wear his assless chaps to the ring, so he should work.
What the hell? Oh, Sid was working it in a different way. At one point,
real quick, gotta point out the amount of mullets in this match, by the way.
4 of them. Well, and then Teddy Long had a skullet, so there's 5. Shane tries to flip over Spivey's back, and he barely did. He kind of lands on him. He then gets on all 4s behind Spivey, and Johnny does a crossbody, landing on his face. Imagine John Laurinaitis goes for a crossbody, lands on his face.
John Laurinaitis.
Yeah. The Skyscrapers missed a double clothesline and hit each other. Eventually, Shane distracts the referee and allows the Skyscrapers to sort of cheat by doing a double team spine buster while pulling Johnny's mullet. How dare they? Spivey then power bombs Johnny. I call it that because Johnny basically cuts a front flip onto the mat, and then they pin him. Oh, this was bad. This was so bad. If you all want a lesson in what not to do, go watch this match.
Well, yeah, Gordon, it was bad, but something's coming up. Gonna make that look like a gem.
Speaking of which, Gordon Solie interviews Jim Cornette backstage, who affirms that he does have a bad knee, but he says that he has to win tonight, and the only way Paul Lee is going to take his place is when Cornette is 6 feet under. Well, Cornette's out of the business, and Paul Lee has taken his place. So, there's that. Now we get to the tuxedo match. Paulie Dangerously versus Jim Cornette. Paul starts by throwing powder into Jim's eyes. The funniest part of this is Paul Lee takes his gigantic phone, he starts bashing away at Cornette's right knee. Cornette grabs him and leans in and tells him, wrong knee. So Paul starts bashing on the left one. Did you notice that?
No, I didn't actually. But I got to point out, these guys, their weapons of choice are a tennis racket and a cell phone. Can we just acknowledge that?
And for those of you thinking we're talking like cell phones like you know them, no. 1989 brick cell phone. But, yeah.
Also got to point out, Paul Heyman had hair, and it was a mullet at the time.
Yeah, he did.
Very weird.
Another mullet. But yeah, the reason I know the story about the knee, and I mean you can see it, but you can't see what he says because he kind of leans in too tight. Cornette says he wore a knee brace when he had to do anything physical, and he said he tightened it up all the way to where he could barely get any circulation. And he said it was like it was a tough brace, so he was like, you can beat the crap out of it and I won't feel a thing. And then first thing Paulie does was start smashing his cell phone into the wrong knee.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
How about these cheap tuxedos they were wearing, too, by the way?
Yeah. They look like they were rejected from Dumb and Dumber.
Why is this a match, by the way? I know what the feud, but like, what the hell made him say, you know what? We're going to have a match where you're going to rip each other's clothes off.
I guess to give something to it. I don't know.
That's all they could give to it?
I guess. Paul gets stripped to just his pants, and he gets another handful of powder again, but Jim kicks it in his face. And then Jim rips Paul's pants off for the win, and Paul runs to the back in shame.
Yeah, shame for having that match.
Yeah, the winner here is none of us.
Or all of us. I mean.
Yeah. Man, the jovial Jew stripped down to his boxer briefs, I guess. Gordon Solie interviews Gary Hart backstage, who puts over Great Muta and says that Japan possesses the greatest athletes in the world. I never realized that Gary Hart was such good best friends with Dave Meltzer.
Wow.
What?
I just.
Right.
Gary Hart's still a very underrated manager, by the way. One of the very best.
He cut good promos, but during the match, I was just like, why are you there other than once in a while to hand a weapon over? The next match was the Varsity Club versus the Steiner Brothers with Missy Hyatt. This is a Texas Tornado tag, which means they don't have to tag each other in and out. Sullivan rolls Rick up picks him up for a slam. Scott goes to the top rope, hits a crossbody, knocks them both over, and both Steiners land on Sullivan for the win. Not really much to say other than that. Gordon Solie interviews Sting and Eddie Gilbert backstage. Eddie Gilbert looks like a truck driver at this point. I don't know why.
That's hot stuff, Eddie Gilbert. Okay.
Yeah, well, here he looked like Eddie Gilbert.
And can we talk about that stupid hat he was wearing?
Yeah. That's why I said he looked like you'd see him like pulled up to the diner like, yeah, I'll have another drink of coffee, Martha.
Well, did you see the hat, though?
I didn't see it was a Niners hat. That's right. Yeah. I did make a note of that. Yeah. So I'm sure he just endeared himself to you right then and there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, he became one of my favorites.
They were in Baltimore, by the way. I realized that the Niners were like the dynasty, but it's like, geez, dude. Sting says that he's too pumped up to talk right now. This seemed to be a common thing for him back in the day.
AKA, I forgot my notes.
Basically. He should have wrote him on his hand like The Rock.
Oh. I still can't believe we got caught doing that.
Yeah. The only time in his entire life. But yeah, that was basically the promo. Gilbert puts over Sting wearing a Niners hat. Enough's enough. But next, Sting defends the NWA TV title with Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert in his corner against the Great Muta, who was Gary Hart in his corner. Muta had a pretty cool-ass entrance, man, especially for an entrance in '89.
I loved it.
Two geisha girls come out and they like bang a gong on the stage, and smoke fills up. And the Muta and Gary Hart walk right through the smoke.
Very thick sexual innuendo in there. I'm gonna leave that alone, though.
Oh my gosh. But this was a really great match. Muta did the green mist on the ref at one point, and another one comes down. Sting ducked a roundhouse kick and pinned Muta with a bridging back suplex. Both of the referees then argue over whose shoulders were down, and Muta leaves with the title.
God, this was a thing even back then?
Yep. How many screwed finishes between these two shows? Like, let's count them at the end. That's a thing, by the way. If anybody listens to Brian Alvarez and Vinny, they have, after they review a WCW or NWA show, they do like a countdown at the end over like all the finishes and how many of them were legit and how many of them were stupid.
If I remember right, like the first 52 Nitros, I think there's only like 4 Nitros that ended with an actual finish. Something like that.
Yeah, it was pathetic. WCW always sucked with finishes. Gordon Solie interviews Lex Luger backstage. Luger says that he will not defend his U.S. title tonight unless the NWA makes his no disqualification match a match where you can get disqualified. So you kind of see where it's going at that point. Luger takes on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat next for the NWA U.S. title. Steamboat also has a really cool entrance. His hot wife comes out holding their son Richie, and then Ricky is on a moving platform while holding up a Komodo dragon, kind of go all around the arena. Luger comes out, cool entrance. He poses under a spotlight, and he grabs a mic and says he won't defend his title under a no DQ stipulation. Some nerd who's I don't know his name agrees, and the match is on. So finally, Lex brings a chair into the ring. Steamboat trips and slingshots him into the corner while Lex is still holding the chair. So he goes face first into the corner and the chair at the same time. Steamboat then picks up the chair for whatever freaking reason and beats the crap out of Luger until he's disqualified. Why?
So he keep his title.
No, Steamboat wasn't the champion. Why would he get himself disqualified?
Maybe he forgot there was no DQ, or it was DQ.
But it was a thing before the match that he argued about. He had to agree to it. Either way,
I said he forgot.
Well, either way, it comes down to WCW made another one of their wrestlers look like a complete idiot.
It's a gift.
Yeah, I guess good for them. They know how to make their athletes look stupid. But then Steamboat chases him up the aisle with a chair. The Fabulous Freebirds and Samoan Swat team are in the back. Talk about the silly talk that
you want to talk about a Motley Crue.
Yeah, this was something. Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy actually cut a halfway decent old school promo. I was never a big fan of Jimmy Garvin's mic work. I mean, he wasn't terrible. I just thought he was too over the top. That's a thing. But I always enjoyed a Michael Hayes promo. I mean, how did you feel the same way, or did you like them both?
He was clearly the other guy.
Oh, Jimmy?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, they said Jim Cornette refuses to accept Jimmy Garvin as a Freebird. He just happened to be the guy that rode with the Freebirds, and after the other ones left, they're like, well, I guess you're one of us now. But now we go to this promo. There's a Midnight Express and Dr. Death. Doc acts like he's flying around, and he says he's trying to find birds because he's the bird crusher. And then he says he's going to get his...
Great.
Yeah, and then he says he's got to get his bug spray for them Somalians.
Did he say that?
He did. He tried to say Samoans. He tried to say Samoans, but it sounded like he said Somalians.
Does it just mean Somalians sound worse?
Yeah. And
I mean, at least Samoans are in the match. I mean,
yeah. Well, why would he need bug spray for the Samoan SWAT team? The bird crusher thing was stupid, but I get it. But what's with the bug spray? For those of you who don't know, Dr. Death was a horrible promo. Absolutely the drizzling craps. He was great in the ring.
He was
horrible promo. Yes. He was a fan. Yeah, I loved his in-ring work. Never put a mic in that man's hand. Ever. He then tells the Midnights and the Road Warriors he's got their backs. If they have his, then the Road Warriors come in and cut a typical Road Warrior fiery promo where Animal yells a lot and then he says, "Tell him, Hawk."
Everything I just said, tell him.
Yep. I love that. Fabulous Freebirds and the Samoan SWAT team took on the Road Warriors, the Midnight Express, and Dr. Death, Steve Williams up next. We're going to talk about Motley Crue right here, man. It's just why are they together?
I felt like these are two really thrown together teams. I mean, I think they're all feuding separately.
Yeah. Well, Paulie Dangerously was with the Heels. The Heels! And Paul Ellering was with the Baby Faces. Bobby Eaton starts with Jimmy Garvin. As Eaton gets in control, Terry Gordy comes in next. They dominate until Dr. Death comes in and cleans house. Samu is in next, and it's 50-50 until the Heels get control again right before Road Warrior Animal comes in to even things out. The Babyfaces, they dominate until Fatu gets in. The Heels gain the advantage yet again. Sweet Stan is in next to last for the Babyface team and instantly starts chucking dudes into the cage walls. Michael Hayes is in last, the last member of the heel team, and he just starts DDTing the crap out of everybody in sight. The Heels get in firm control when Hawk enters last to become just turns into a house on fire. After a bit of a battle, Hawk turns Jimmy Garvin inside out with a flying clothesline off the top, hits a hangman neck breaker, and then locks him into a hangman's clutch until Garvin submits. So the babyfaces get the win, but there's more, Greg. The crowd loses their absolute crap for this. Everyone leaves the cage, but Animal is a straggler behind, so the heels take him out, hold the door closed, and they try to keep the baby faces out. They beat the tar out of Animal until Hawk and Dr. Death rip the door open, and the heels take a powder out the other side. Was this a... I don't think that was a common thing in the War Games, was it? Where the heels attacked afterwards.
Yeah, it kind of was common actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if they overused it or not.
Well, they did, but it was common, but definitely overused.
Yeah. Well, now we get to our main event of the evening. These last two matches, by the way, if you have to watch anything on these cards, these last two matches are it. Gordon Solie interviews Ric Flair backstage. He puts over that he re-injured his neck. He could be forced to retire. He says that he feels 120% and he has to do this tonight. It was a pretty calm promo where Flair was actually being himself, not playing a character. You notice whenever he was a babyface, he never got real animated and screaming and yelling and such. Yep. He just kind of cut a standard promo. I mean, it was fine. He was still good, but he wasn't playing the Ric Flair character per se. But this main event, Ric Flair defending the NWA World's title against Terry Funk with Gary Hart in his corner. Terry Funk comes out to some massive heat. Security even has to hold some people back from jumping the railing. I was blown away by that, by the way. I was never alive in a time where wrestling was like that. So that was kind of cool to see that. Did you
Good
catch
times.
that?
Mm-hmm.
The crowd explodes for Flair, who comes out with 4 hot women on his arms. Shocker. Before he probably took them all to Space Mountain after the show. Before the bell rings.
I'm not touching that.
Well, you shouldn't. It's not yours to touch. Before the bell rings, Flair takes Funk outside and beats him around ringside for a bit. Funk dominates after they finally get into the ring. He tries for a vertical suplex at one point, and he yanks so hard on Flair's trunks we almost get a peek at Space Mountain.
Yeah, how many times has that happened?
Oh, man. Yeah. We almost got to see the baby's arm.
Oh, my God.
Flair cranks the neck of Funk a couple times and hits a back-to-back, and he hits back-to-back pile drivers, leading to Funk flopping outside and crawling away. Flair catches him and throws him into the ring. After a bit, Flair locks in the figure 4. Gary Hart tosses Funk his branding iron, and he distracts the ref. Funk hits Flair with the iron and breaks the hold. This busts Flair open. You know we got to get some blood.
Flair blood.
Hell yeah.
Make that clear.
Well, yeah. Flair's always got to bleed. Just like Tom Cruise got to run. Matthew McConaughey got to get shirtless. Flair got to bleed.
Take my shirt off.
Funk hits a pile driver. Flair gets a foot under the bottom rope to avoid being pinned. Flair reverses a pile driver on the concrete outside. Thank God. Once in the ring, Funk hits repeated neck breakers, demanding that Flair give up. Hart distracts the ref again. Flair steals the branding iron and pops Funk with it to make him bleed, because Funk got to bleed too. Flair misses a running knee to the corner, and Funk gets in the spinning toe hold, but Flair reverses it into a figure 4 attempt. Funk rolls him up with a small package. Flair reverses that and gets the win with his own small package. Something of which Flair is not used to utilizing. Another reference.
Oh, man.
How many references to Flair's junk can I fit in there?
All kinds of innuendo this entire episode.
Right? But yeah, that was a great match. Went on for a while. They beat the crap out of each other. Both men bled, and the ending was kind of surprising. But again, that's not all. Great Muta runs down. He sprays green mist into Ric Flair's face. Muta, Funk, and Gary Hart triple team Flair. Funk goes to pile drive Flair on a chair, but of all people, security guard Doug Dillinger gets in the ring to stop him. He gets beaten up for it. Sting then gets in and attacks the heels. They start to come back on Sting, but Flair hits a flying knee, of all things, on Muta. And a four-way brawl breaks out. It breaks up for a bit so that Sting and Flair can high-five each other in the ring and get the big reaction. Then they brawl to the back yet again. Flair gets interviewed by Jim Ross in the crowd, where he thanks Sting and then tells Funk that they're just getting started. He says, "I'm going to dog you until I wear your Texas ass out." Innuendo.
Okay.
But all in all, I thought that was a damn good show.
Yep, me too.
A damn good match. Damn good show. All in all, I think if you guys listening haven't had an opportunity to watch this Great American Bash, definitely go and do it. I know there are some things you can skip and some goofy stuff, but it's all at least worth a watch. Except the Bill Irwin match. You can skip that crap unless you really like curly mullets.
I might go so far as to say like almost every Great American Bash in WCW was pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, until especially the NWA Great American Bashes, it was a big thing. WCW, I don't know if they put quite as much emphasis on the Bash as they did other events later on, towards the mid to late 90s. I mean, it was still a big thing. But yeah, it was a really big deal back in the NWA days. You and I reviewed I think we reviewed two Great American Bashes over the summer. I want to say it was 88 and 90 we reviewed. I can't remember.
I know we did 90 for sure.
Yeah, we did 89 on the same show. I
specifically requested that one.
Right, that was the one where Sting wins the title, right?
Yeah.
Think about that. He's facing Bill Irwin on this show. 1 year later, he's going to be taking on Ric Flair for the world title.
You go from the Goon to Ric Flair. That's a natural progression.
Yeah, we'll go with that. God dang, that was brutal.
B.R. Oodle.
But yeah, definitely go back. Those last two matches are worth everything. Everything else on the show is fairly fun. Well, most everything. I think the NWA treated the Great American Bash like the secondary show behind Starrcade. Because if you watch, like you were saying, it was always good, but they put like extra emphasis on it. But for some reason, when Bischoff took over, I mean, they still had some big stuff, but he put way more emphasis on like Halloween Havoc and stuff like that.
Because he had a cold sweat.
I guess. Both Tony Schiavone and Eric Bischoff both say that, in their opinion, the big show of the year for WCW was always Halloween Havoc. I don't know why. It never felt that way to me. I mean, big stuff always happened, but you and I have reviewed enough of them. They were goofy. I don't... And Eric Bischoff at one point wanted to pretend that he died in a plane crash and his ghost returned at Halloween Havoc. That was... I wonder
if Bill Ding was ever going to be part of the...
Well, he should have. Bill Ding and The Wall should have formed a tag team.
Building the Wall.
Oh, yeah. That would have got over like gangbusters.
Oh, good grief.
We're stupid.
No, WCW was stupid.
Yeah, they were. But all right, y'all, that was those shows. We're heading back to WWE next week with one more classic Survivor Series review. On our November 20th episode, it's going to be classic Survivor Series review from 2002, which you and I both agreed was a great show, but not everybody feels that way for some reason. I thought it was universally loved.
Yeah, I don't get that either.
But then the week after that, November 27th, we will do our Survivor Series and War Games review from this year, because we'll actually be there, and we'll have more content from Chicago itself. So that'll be good.
I'm stoked for that.
Oh yeah, I want to get the hell out of town. Not because anything bad is happening per se. I want to get to Chicago. And both the shows, the build-up has been really good. I was kind of half and half. Like, I always watched WWE, but I wasn't like super invested in it until the build-up to this pay-per-view. I guess these, because they're two shows. But yeah, the build-up has been great so far. I'm anxious to see what happens, especially now that NXT is thrown in the mix.
Yeah, right.
It's going to be great. But thank you for joining me today, Greg.
Mm-hmm.
And we will see you all next week. Later.
Later.